This is dangerous. Mr. Corral, please confirm the recording has been started. Thank you. It's now 1:07 p.m. I would like to call to order this meeting of the WIFA Federal Programs Committee. I will call the roll. Karen Peters. Blake Anderson.
Here.
Tom Puchatsky.
Lainey Meeker present for Director Bishotsky.
Paul Gardner. Ray Montoya.
Here.
Joe Olson.
Here.
Kevin Rogers. Fernando Shipley. David Tinney. Sandra Watson. And I am here with
You should have Keith. Sandra. So if you want.
Do we have Keith Watkins?
Hello.
Hello, Keith. So with 6 members present, quorum is confirmed. So for the record, please remember to identify yourself when making a motion or requesting to speak. Please ensure that you are unmuted for any votes. And for those in the room, please remember to leave the microphones on the table for sound quality purposes. In addition, if any member wishes to depart the meeting at any time, please announce your departure for our recorded meeting records. And this is especially critical, seeing as how we have just barely enough for quorum. Has WIFA staff received any disclosures?
Good afternoon, Joe Soteli, General Counsel. No disclosures have been submitted for today's meeting.
Thank you, Joe. If any member would like to identify and disclose a conflict with any item on today's agenda, they may do so at this time.
Yes, Mr. Chair, this is Joe Olson. I submitted a conflict through the online platform, but apparently maybe it didn't get to WIFA staff. It is for item 5B as in Bravo. There's a Metro Water project that's being added to the PPL list, so I'm going to recuse myself from that one because the action, of course, is the addition of the Metro Water project to the list. But that is only 5 Bravo.
Thank you, Joe.
And we will take a look into finding that. Thanks.
Any other disclosures at this time? Hearing none, we'll move to item 3 on the agenda, the director's report. Lindsay Jones will lead the discussion.
All right, good afternoon, Chair and members of the FPC. So on behalf of Director McGuire, I will be delivering the director's report today. I only have a few brief updates for the committee. So first, the WIFA board will be making its FY 2027 committee appointments at its June meeting. So as a reminder, our FPC membership is reappointed annually. We are recommending to the board to that they reappoint the current FPC membership with no changes. Of course, if there's any member who's no longer able or willing to serve, we do ask you that you notify staff as soon as possible. And then the second update for you all is that the board did approve an updated board and committee policy in May. One of the key changes to that policy is the requirement for staff to conduct eligibility verifications for all board and committee members. The process for completing these verifications is still under development, so we'll have additional instructions to follow once they're finalized. But those are my 2 updates for the board, or for the committee, so that concludes my report, and I'm happy to take any questions the committee may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. Any questions? Hearing none, we'll move to item 4 on the agenda, the financial update. Denise Olson will lead the discussion.
Thank you. It's hard to believe, but we are almost at the end of fiscal year 26. So this update is to provide information on where I think we're actually going to be at the end of the year. So this is our financial plan. You can see for fiscal year 26, we are right in line with our goals. So our goal was 94.3, and we're going to come in at 93.1 million of loans approved. And that includes FPC, and also it includes our water supply development fund. So in total, we are at 364.6 million. Our goal is 549.8 million by the end of fiscal year 2028. So we're right on track of meeting our goals that were set in our strategic framework. One thing I just want to stress here is this is not a maximum amount of loans that we can approve every year. These are just goals. So we are definitely looking for more loans and more projects. And if you go to the next slide. This shows you where we're at in terms of our disbursements. We are going to be very close, which is different than previous years. We're going to be probably about 20 million under what was forecasted. We are sitting at 79% of our loans with commitments have started disbursements, meaning they have projects underway. This is higher than it was last year, which was at 74%. Of the ones that are not dispersing, we have about 21 projects that haven't started. Some of those are old and were prior to our readiness to proceed policy, but slightly less than half is for new loans. So we anticipate they will start cash flowing. So overall disbursements are on track. And if you go to the next slide. So because we're missing our disbursements a tad, we are going to have a little bit more cash at the end of the fiscal year and going into 26-27. But because projects are dispersing, I do anticipate that next year is going to be a heavy year for disbursements because we do have a large number of projects that are ongoing. But this is putting us in a very good financial position. Remember, we do pay off all of our debt by the year 2028. That also frees up more cash. So financially, we're very, very strong. If you go to the next slide. So overall, loans that we have been approved this last fiscal year are consistent with what we had forecasted. Disbursements are slightly lower than what we had forecasted, causing our cash balance to be a tad higher. We are financially strong and have the capacity for future loans. I will say that again, we are financially strong and have the capacity for future loans. And again, this financial plan is going to be updated in the fall to reflect the most recent IUPs, which are on the agenda today, also loan demand, disbursements, and timing of any future leveraging. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Olson? Hearing none, we'll move on to our consent agenda items.
And real quick, Britt, because we have one recusal for the consent agenda item 5B, I will recommend maybe we move to the next item while we hopefully get one more member of the committee to join so that we have a quorum for voting on these items.
Thank you.
Yep.
So with that, we'll hold agenda item 5A and 5B for now. And we'll move to our regular agenda. Members of the public wishing to speak on a specific agenda item may submit a speaker's card prior to the chair opening discussion on that item. For instructions on how to submit a speaker's card, please refer to the notes on proceedings section of today's meeting agenda. Agenda item 6, state revolving funds intended use plans for FY 2027. Lindsay Jones will lead the discussion.
All right, thank you very much. So yes, certainly hard to believe we are already talking about FY 2027, but that is where we're at right now. So we can go ahead and go to the next slide. For this agenda item, we have two items for you to recommend for the board's consideration. So we have our 2 state revolving fund intended use plans. So I'll give just a brief explanation of these and have a few of the tables from the plans, but always happy to take any questions on these. So we have the intended use plans, or IUPs, which are the documents that WIFA produces each year to publish the goals of the federally funded SRF programs. So these are not including any of the other state-funded programs, such as the Water Conservation, Water Supply, or Long-Term Fund, just specifically the SRF programs. These IUPs also contain our project priority list, which include all of the applications received and show how WIFA intends to target our resources to best meet the goals of the state revolving programs. The draft IUPs have been made publicly available so that stakeholders have that opportunity to review it and make any comments on it before it becomes final. So we did publish the draft IUPs on May 27th. And then on June 5th, we held a public hearing to solicit comments in real time. We did have several members of the public attend, but just one question was raised during that public hearing, which, to summarize the question, it was related to if there are any plans for funding water loss trainings or technical assistance and water audit validations through our set-aside use, to which we responded that within the drinking water intended use plan, while there aren't any specific plans for water loss trainings, we are providing set-asides to ADEQ, who may be providing related trainings through their programs that are funded with the set-asides they're receiving. And then the next steps, of course, are to present this for the Federal Program Committee to review, discuss, and make recommendations on. We'll also accept any public comments as part of today's meeting on those IUPs. By tomorrow at 5 p.m., we'll have the deadline for submitting any additional public comments on the draft IUPs, and then those comments will be incorporated into the IUPs and presented at the June 17th board meeting for their final approval. After adoption, we send the IUPs to EPA and include those as part of our capitalization grant applications. And we can go to the next slide. The next few slides are just a few of the tables that you can find within the intended use plan. So on the left is the drinking water grant amounts and amounts of loan forgiveness. And then the table on the right is for clean water. So as a reminder, we have this is the 5th and final year of the supplemental funding, which is the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, or bill, which is also known as the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, IIJA funding. So we traditionally have gotten the drinking water base and clean water base grants every year, and are expecting to continue to get those base grants, but this will be the 5th and final year of the supplemental funds, as well as the emerging contaminant and lead service line funds. We did also include a note within the IUP that we are not intending to apply for the lead service line funding available to Arizona due to a lack of project demand for those funds and eligible projects that could be using those funds. And we go to the next slide. And actually, I'm sorry, go back just one slide. I did want to just flag for the committee that, as I said, we're still anticipating getting those base funds going forward. We are seeing the earmarks or congressionally directed spending having an impact on the base amounts, which we're hopeful won't continue to happen in the future years, especially once we no longer have those supplemental funds that are adding to the total. But we are seeing on drinking water that the total base amount is about 6.7 million, where historically it was more about around 20 million. And for the clean water base amount, it's just below 5 million, where historically it was more around 10 million. So just want to make sure the committee had that information. And go to the next slide here. So as far as applications received that are eligible for these funds, we have the two different tables to show the number of application and the dollar amount of those applications. So definitely a very healthy amount of demand for these funds, more than enough demand to justify applying for all of the funds, with the one exception of the Clean Water Emerging Contaminant Fund. You'll see that we had just one application that only had a smaller portion of their total costs that would be eligible under the Clean Water Emerging Contaminant funding. That said, we are planning to apply for a conditional grant award. We did add the asterisk with the double asterisk for the clean water side that WIFA is applying for that conditional award after providing the FPC the draft IUPs. So you will see that in the final version, but we did want to add that clarification that even though we aren't seeing the project demand currently, we do anticipate that we'll have plenty of demand for those funds. We had a large number of projects on the Drinking Water Emerging Contaminant Fund. As you can see here, over $86 million applied through that funding program. And we are fairly confident that several of those projects are eligible under both the Drinking Water and Clean Water Emerging Contaminant Funds, which is all to say that we do believe we'll have the demand for those funds. And we're just working with the applicants to make sure that we have the right applications going through the right funding paths for that. So that is one update on our plan for applying for these funds. And then we'll go to the final slide I have for you. So overall, the really important part of our SRF intended use plans is showing that we'll have a use for all of these funds, which both our drinking water and clean water sources and uses tables are certainly showing a high level of demand. So we have both of them having an ending cash balance. If you take into consideration all of the projects within our project priority list, they're both having an ending cash balance of a negative balance, which is really a good place to be, meaning that if we awarded every single one of the projects, we would be overcommitted. And as a reminder, that's a good place to be for a number of reasons. One, because we work on
I got stuck at work. I apologize.
and we're getting a little talking on there. So if you're talking, please make sure you're on mute.
Great.
But we are very happy to see a negative on there because one, it's a reimbursement basis, meaning these are long-term construction projects over several years. They're not drawing all of the funds at once. And additionally, we do use cash flow models and have our financial plan to make sure that we're looking at all of our options for leveraging the funds and going to the bond market to raise more capital if the demand shows that those funds are needed. So definitely in a really good place with those numbers. And I'm happy to take any questions the committee may have on the IUPs.
Thank you, Lindsay. Does the committee have any questions for WIFA staff? Do we have any requests for public comment on this item?
No request to speak on this item.
Thank you. Is there any additional committee discussion on this item?
I'll just note for the record, Joe Satelli, General Counsel, that Fernando Shipley joined at 1:23 p.m.
Thank you. May we have a motion on agenda items 6A and 6B to adopt the draft funding cycle 2027 clean water and drinking water IUP and PPLs?
This is Joe Olson. I'll make the aforementioned motion.
Thank you, Joe.
This
Do
is
we have a second?
Fernando. I'll second.
Thank you, Fernando. Any committee member discussion on the motion? With no further discussion, we will call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Those opposed? Any abstained? Hearing none, the motion passes 7-0. Now that we have 7 members with 1 potential abstain, I'd like to circle back to agenda items 4A and 5A and 5B. Are noticed as consent agenda items. Any item on the consent agenda may be removed and discussed as a regular agenda item upon the request of any committee. For those attending virtually, please ensure you are unmuted for our vote. Before I entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda, does any member wish to remove an item for further discussion?
And this is Joe Satelli, General Counsel. I will note, since Joel Olson has submitted a conflict and recused himself from agenda item 5B, if he's going to vote on the consent agenda, you would need to separate those. Otherwise, Joel can abstain from voting on the entirety of the agenda item. He cannot vote on the package deal as recused himself from one of those.
Thank you.
So you'll need to separate it, or Joe will not be able to vote on the consent agenda.
That being said, Joe, do you have a preference?
I'm fine to vote on 5 alpha.
Okay, so with that, I think we need to entertain a motion to pull 5A from the consent.
Joe Satelli, General Counsel, as acting chair, you can just take agenda item 5A for a vote and then do agenda item 5B.
Okay, thank you.
No
With
problem.
that, let's take agenda item 5A first. May we have a motion?
I'll move to approve agenda item 5A.
Thank you, Joe. Do we have a second for agenda item 5A?
This is Ray Montoya. I'll second.
Thank you, Ray. Is there any further discussion on agenda item 5A? With no further discussion, we will call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Any abstained? Hearing none, motion passes with a 7-0 vote. Now we will hear agenda item 5B. May we have a motion on agenda item 5B?
This is Ray Montoya. I move to approve agenda item 5B.
Thank you, Ray. May we have a second?
This is Fernando. I'll second.
Thank you, Fernando. Any discussion on agenda item 5B? Hearing none, we will call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And one abstained. With that, we have 6 in favor, 1 abstained. The item passes. Now we will return to the regular agenda with agenda item 7A, Loan Resolution 2026-061, Emperita Water Company LLC, DW-034-2026, in the amount of $269,250. Scott Connolly will lead the discussion and introduce any representatives from the applicant.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Chair. Burrito Water Company LLC, which is located in Benson, is seeking just over $269,000 to equip and connect well number 3 to the current water system in order to restore source water redundancy following the collapse of well number 2, and to provide for the refurbishment of the system's 150,000 gallon storage tank and replacement of all 81 manual read meters with automatic meter read technology. Emperita Water Company system is currently operating with a significantly reduced water source redundancy following the collapse of the casing on well number 2, leaving the system dependent on a single functioning well, which is well number 1, which is connected to the system and yielding only 25 gallons per minute. The company previously drilled and cased for well number 3, but is not connected to the system. The company also originally asked for this connection in their financing and rate case decision before the ACC, but it was denied because it was too proximal to well number 2, and the company still had both existing wells online at that time. Then the company agreed with that ruling. The ACC did approve WIFA financing for the refurbishment of the tank and the ARM meters at that time, along with the 150. I said tank already, sorry. Shortly after the ACC decision, the casing of well 2 did collapse, leaving only well 1 online. The company filed for a Section 252 amendment with the ACC to amend the approved project scope to include connecting well number 3 and or repair of well number 2. The ACC approved the scope change amendment, but did not increase the loan amount. The lower cost experience on the refurbishments and the meter replacement allow the funding to bring on the well number 3 online. In their original decision, the ACC also approved a rate increase that put the company in a good position to take on the WIFA debt, and that was approved. Projections using that rate increase are sufficient for the company to meet WIFA's debt service requirements. Emperita Water Company serves a designated disadvantaged community and is a WIFA priority community. Therefore, per policy 222,125, a forgivable principal is included in this request. We should have online the borrower representative, Jim Vermillier, and is the managing member, and the WIFA staff working on it was Casey Allman, the project manager, and Channing Lester, the loan officer. With that, I'll turn it back to the committee for any questions.
Thank you, Scott. Does the committee have any questions for WIFA staff? Hearing none, does the committee have any questions for the applicant?
Yes, Mr. Chair, this is Joe Olson.
Thank you, Joe. Go ahead.
Yes, Jim, just a quick question. Based on the well number 3 being connected, will the capacity of either of these wells be adequate if one of the wells goes down for your full service demand? I haven't seen Jim unmuted yet.
Jim, if you can unmute yourself.
I might be able to answer my own question from the materials. I just don't know what the system demand is. 'Cause I see this new well will bring in an extra 100 GPM. I just wanted to verify that it gives the full redundancy as well.
And for Jim, we have enabled your mic. You will have to unmute yourself if you would like to respond. Be having some technical difficulties.
Is anyone from WIFA staff able to confirm with?
We do have the project manager coming up, so maybe he will have the response for us. Casey? Yep.
Hey there, Joe. Thanks for your question. I appreciate it. This is Casey, the project manager. From our due diligence from this, connecting the well to the system should allow for full redundancy for them. There's only about 81, I believe, connections, so it's not like a high amount of demand. So putting this additional connection will really shore everything up.
Perfect. Thanks for the answer. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you, Casey.
Thank you. I would just add from the commission's perspective, when we were originally presented with the proposal at the time with 2 wells active, that's why we recommended just the storage tank project. With the second well going down and giving the utility the capability to either bring that 3rd well or to repair the 2nd well, does provide for the redundancy they had at the time of the initial request. Any other questions for the applicant or WIFA staff? Do we have any requests for public comment on this item?
No request to speak on this item.
Thank you. Is there any additional committee discussion? Hearing none, may we have a motion on agenda item 7A for loan resolution 2026-061.
This is Fernando. I'll move to approve.
Keith Watkins, second.
Thank you, Fernando and Keith. Any committee member discussion on the motion? With no further discussion, we will call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Any abstained? Hearing none, the motion passes 7-0. We'll now move on to agenda item 7B, loan resolution 2026-062, Town of Camp Verde, CW-020-2026, in the amount of $1,873,000. Scott Connolly will lead the discussion and introduce any representatives from the applicant.
Thank you, Mr. Baxter. The town of Camp Verde is seeking a design loan for $1.873 million for proposed facility improvements consisting of the engineering design of gravity sewer main line, sewer force mains, sewer collection mains, sewer lift stations, many sewer taps and stubs, along with necessary easements and legal descriptions. The town has resubmitted their design application with an additional funding request to complete the project's updated design. It will also refinance the outstanding balance of the original $1.2 million design loan approved for this project that has a balloon payment due on July 1st of this year. The town has experienced unexpected issues with both project financing and design since the original loan request was approved back in December of 2020. The original plan relied on an improvement district, but legislative delays and the eventual tabling of the district left the town unable to incur debt for the $17 million construction project that they had planned. The improvement district is now being reconsidered, and the town is exploring additional funding options. Design work has also been delayed because the town was unable to secure several key private property easements. As a result, the project is being redesigned to keep the sewer line within town and ADOT right-of-ways, which is reducing the need for those private easements. The financing will be used to pay off the town's existing WIFA design loan that matures on 7/1/26 and provide additional funding for continued design and planning associated with the project to allow it to be ready for final construction. The town has made principal payments of $51,000 over the years and is current on all interest payments required since the first extension was made back in May of 2023. Using a hybrid projection analysis showing the requested design loan for 3 years at 1% and then converting to a 20-year term loan at $147,500 payment per year. The town is projected to maintain the required debt service coverage. While the town of Camp Verde serves a disadvantaged community and is a priority community, no forgivable principal is typically given to design loans. The awarding of forgivable principal is deferred to when the construction loan is requested. The design loan does, however, come with a 1% interest rate and is interest only for the 3-year maturity with a balloon payment at the end. With that, we do have Representative Mike Showers, the Finance Director, online, and also Lisa Vaughn, the Utilities Director. The WIFA staff that working on this was Morgan Burgess, the Project Manager, and Channing Lester, the Loan Officer. So with that, I'll turn it back to you, Mr. Baxter.
Thank you, Scott. Does the committee have any questions for WIFA staff? Hearing none, does the committee have any questions for the applicant? Do we have any requests for public comment on this item?
No request to speak on this item.
Thank you. May we have a motion on agenda item 7B for loan resolution 2026-062?
Keith Watkins, I'll make a motion.
Joe Olson, I second.
Thank you, Keith and Joe. Any committee member discussion on the motion? With no further discussion, we will call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed? Any abstained? Hearing none, the motion passes 7-0. We will now move on to agenda item 7C, loan resolution 2026-063, City of Globe, DW-044-2026 in the amount of $1 million. Scott Connolly will lead the discussion and introduce any representatives from the applicant.
Okay, thank you. The City of Globe is requesting $1 million in WIFA funding to support the participation in the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers Section 595 program for a water line replacement project. The requested WIFA loan will cover a portion of the required local match at $460,000, the remaining costs of construction $473,000, and leave about $67,000 for contingencies. The City of Globe obtained a Army Corps of Engineers Section 595 grant to replace approximately 2.5 miles of aging water line infrastructure that runs between the Gila County Fairgrounds to the ADOT maintenance yard along the old US 60 alignment in Globe. The water line experiences multiple water main breaks throughout the year, and the city is looking to replace it with ductile iron pipe for longer lasting durability. The $2.8 million Army Corps 595 project consists of $2.1 million, which is 75% that's in grant, and $700,000 or 25% in local match. The program funding covers pre-design activities, permit fees, federal coordination with the Army Corps, and construction. In looking at the financial performance, it was noted during the review period that the city experienced staffing changes following the loss of staffing challenges, following the loss of its finance director due to health issues in fiscal year 2022. As a result, extensions were required for the fiscal year 2024 and fiscal year 2025 annual comprehensive financial reports. The finance director position has been filled, and the city has completed its fiscal year 2024 financial statements and is currently working on its fiscal year 2025. Overall, historical utility revenues have been relatively stable with only modest year-to-year variation. Expenses did fluctuate with a couple of unexpected events occurring during the review period. $1 million in emergency water system repairs in 2022 and severe flooding in 2025, resulting in an additional $700,000 in costs. These events did significantly impact net revenue in those years. In response to rising expenses and relatively flat revenues, the City Council authorized a 12% across the board rate increase for all sanitation and drinking water fees in April of 2025. On the strength of this increase, projected coverages above the required 1.2 times debt service coverage in 3 of the 5 years in the 2026 to 2030 review period, and in 2030 is expected to be at 1.6 times after a WIFA loan matures. All loans are current and being paid as required. This project serves a disadvantaged community and is presented with $512,500 in forgivable principal. WIFA staff also recommends up to $20,000 in technical assistance to contract with the Council of Governments to assist with Davis-Bacon and related act requirements. Application representatives is Travis Ashbaugh, the Assistant Public Works Planning Director, and WIFA staff working on the project was Lindsay Mills, the project manager, and Channing Lester, the loan officer. So with that, I'll turn it back to the committee.
Thank you, Scott. Does the committee have any questions for WIFA staff? Does the committee have any questions for the applicant?
This is Ray Montoya. I have one question.
Go ahead, Ray.
Yeah, for whoever's on board for the city of Globe, I know this is a replacement water line project, but it's going to the one area that can still grow in Globe, in the area Globe, with the fairgrounds and the prison. Is future growth or future demand also calculated in the size of this pipeline and what it'll be serving?
Mr. Montoya, I believe so. It is. I think we are increasing it from currently to a 10 to a 12, I believe. So yeah, we are factoring in some potential growth in the future.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any additional questions for the applicant? Do we have any requests for public comment on this item?
No request to speak on this item.
Thank you. Any additional committee discussion at this time? May we have a motion on agenda item 7C for loan resolution 2026-063?
This is Ray Montoya. I'll move to approve loan resolution 2026-063 for the city of Globe.
Thank you, Ray. Do we have a second?
This is Lainey. I'll second.
Thank you, Lainey. Any committee member discussion on the motion? With no further discussion, we will call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Those opposed? Any abstained? With that, the motion passes 7-0. We'll now move on to agenda item 7D, loan resolution addendum A 2026-064, Town of Clarkdale. This is a scope modification request. Scott Connolly will lead the discussion and introduce any representatives from the applicant.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Baxter. WIFA received a request from the Town of Clarkdale to modify the scope of work approved for loan number 910221-25 to add the partial funding of an additional wastewater project. In February 2025, WIFA closed a $2 million loan with $600,000 forgivable principal to fund the replacement of the existing sewer main, manholes, and service connections from North Broadway Road to the 5th Street Alley. The town has completed the project and has just over $95,000 remaining that they would like to apply to another wastewater project. The Town of Clarkdale has an additional service agreement with its engineering firm for the design of replacement of a wet well. The Alamos lift station accumulates grease and solids because the influent gravity main is submerged in the wet well. This causes backups and clogs in the influent gravity main, resulting in sanitary sewer overflows. This project would include full wet well replacement, extension of guardrails, influent and discharge piping, and pump cables. Construction costs are currently estimated at $200,000. The request is to revise the scope project to allow the roughly $95,000 available in the loan to be used for the Alamos lift station project. The town plans to fund its currently has available to make up additional project costs not covered by their remaining unused loan funds. The borrower representatives are DK Green, the assistant to the town manager, Josh Tomerline, the utility director, and Virginia Smith, the public works director. With his staff in the room is Morgan Burgess, the project manager, and Channing Lester, the loan officer. So with that, I'll turn it back over to the committee.
Thank you, Scott. Does the committee have any questions for WIFA staff? Does the committee have any questions for the applicant? Do we have any requests for public comment on this item?
No request to speak on this item.
Thank you. May we have a motion on agenda item 7D for loan resolution addendum 2026-064?
This is Fernando. I'll move to approve.
Thank you, Fernando. Do we have a second?
This is Blake Anderson. I'll second.
Thank you, Blake. Any committee member discussion on the motion? With no further discussion, we will call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Those opposed? Any abstained? Hearing none, the motion passes 7-0. Moving to agenda item 7E, loan resolution addendum A 2026-065, Town of Florence. This is scope modification request, and Scott Connolly will lead the discussion and introduce any representatives from the applicant.
Okay, thank you. We've received a request from the town of Florence to amend the scope of work of its wastewater system improvement project loan, which is WIFA loan 910189-21. To reflect a reduced project scope by removing the lift station and associated sewer main infrastructure from the project scope. The original project scope included substantial upgrades to the town's south wastewater treatment plant, alongside decommissioning the existing north wastewater treatment plant and constructing a new lift station with associated force main and gravity sewer infrastructure. While upgrades to the south wastewater treatment plant were completed, further evaluation identified significant complications around constructing sewer mains that would cross the Gila River and an active railroad corridor. The extensive permitting requirements, cultural resources compliance, archaeological survey requirements, all increased costs substantially above initial projections, making the original scope request no longer feasible within the constraints of the existing loan agreement. The town has determined that rehabilitating the existing north wastewater treatment plant is a more practical solution. Therefore, to maintain in compliance with the loan agreement and avoid an open obligation with an undeliverable scope component, the town is requesting the original scope be amended to remove the lift station and associated sewer main infrastructure from the project scope. The town would then deobligate the anticipated remaining $1.392 million of loan commitment. A reduction in scope with a corresponding decrease in commitment does not have an adverse financial impact on the town's ability to repay the original WIFA loan. We do have borrower representation. Jonathan Toomey, Utilities Director, and WIFA staff is Brandon Lofgreen, the project manager, and Channing Lester, the loan officer. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Does the committee have any questions for WIFA staff? Does the committee have any questions for the applicant? Do we have any requests for public comment on this item?
No request to speak on this item.
Thank you. May we have a motion on agenda item 7E for loan resolution addendum 2026-065?
This is Ray Montoya. I recommend approval of loan resolution addendum A 2026-065 for the town of Florence.
This is Joe Olson. I second.
Thank you, Ray and Joe. Any committee member discussion on the motion? With no further discussion, we will call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Those opposed? Any abstained? With that, the motion passes 7-0. We'll move on to agenda item 7F, loan resolution addendum A 2026-066, City of Nogales. This is a scope modification request, and Scott Connolly will lead the discussion and introduce any representatives from the applicant.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We've received a request from the city of Nogales to reduce the project scope for WIFA loan 910190-21. The available remaining funds will not be sufficient to complete all originally identified projects. The resolution amendment will allow the city to fund the completed design for 12 of the 16 projects identified in the original loan agreement, 4 of which have been constructed, and also allow for the additional project not yet identified to be funded from the 8 remaining shovel-ready projects, but uncompleted at this time. The loan amount will remain unchanged. The original scope of the work was to fund 16 wastewater system improvement projects to the city's existing collection system and wastewater treatment plant. The city was approved for just under 4.3 million with 950,000 in forgivable principal to fund these projects, which included approximately 1.58 million allocated toward design and engineering and 2.7 allocated toward construction, installation, and improvement. The city has completed engineering design for 12 of the original 16 proposed projects and has completed construction on 4 projects. Due to increased construction costs, extended project timelines between loan application, design completion, and project bidding, as well as rising material costs, the available funding will not be sufficient to complete the originally scoped projects. Therefore, this request is to reduce the scope of the work to include the already completed costs for design and engineering and construction from the original scope, but then remove the remaining projects with the exception of one additional wastewater improvement project that's yet to be selected from the original project scope from which the design has already been completed. The original loan amount is not being changed, and this is only a scope change. Therefore, the financial obligation to WIFA remains the same. The borrower representative is Eduardo Delgado, the project manager, and Eric Stewart, the intern public works director. WIFA staff would be Samantha Lemke, the project manager, and Channing Lester, the loan officer. Getting a little dry, so bear with me. So with that, I'll turn it back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Scott. Does the committee have any questions for WIFA staff? Does the committee have any questions for the applicant? Do we have any requests for public comment on this item?
No request to speak on this item.
Thank you. May we have a motion on agenda item 7F for loan resolution addendum 2026-066?
Keith Watkins, make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Keith. Do we have a second?
This is
Fernando,
Fernando.
second.
Sorry, I heard Fernando first. Thank you. Any committee member discussion on the motion? With no further discussion, we will call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Any abstained? Hearing that, the motion passes 7-0. We will move on to agenda item 7G, loan resolution addendum A 2026-067, City of Nogales. Again, a scope modification request, and Scott Connolly will lead the discussion and introduce any representatives from the applicant.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, this is very similar to the prior one, where the other one was a clean water. This is a drinking water. But WIFA received a request from the City of Nogales to reduce the project scope for WIFA loan 920317.2-21. The available remaining funds will not be sufficient to complete all originally scoped projects. The proposed amendment will allow the city to use the remaining funds for 25 of the original 29 proposed projects identified in the original loan agreement, as well as construction for 7 completed projects. The original scope of work was to fund the design and construction of water system upgrades throughout the city's water distribution system through 29 projects. The city was approved for just under 10.6 million with 1.5325 million in forgivable principal to fund these projects, including approximately 2.8 million allocated towards design and engineering and approximately 7.7 million allocated toward construction, installation, and improvement. The city has completed engineering for 25 of the original 29 proposed projects and has completed construction on 7 projects to date. And again, due to increased construction costs, extended timelines between loan application, design completion, and project bidding, as well as substantial increases in construction material costs, the available funding will not be sufficient to complete all 29 originally scoped projects. Therefore, this request is to reduce the scope to reflect completing the engineering design for the 25 projects and the 7 finished construction projects from the original scope. Again, the original loan amount is not being changed as this is only a scope change. Therefore, the financial obligation to WIFA remains the same. The same borrower representatives, Eduardo Delgado, the project manager, and Eric Stewart, the interim public works director from the City of Nogales, and the WIFA has staff members Samantha Lemke and Channing Lester. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Does the committee have any questions for WIFA staff? Does the committee have any questions for the applicant? Do we have any requests for public comment on this item?
No request to speak on this item.
Thank you. May we have a motion on agenda item 7G for loan resolution addendum 2026-067?
Keith Watkins, motion to approve.
Thank you, Keith. Do we have a second?
This is Laney. I second.
Thank you, Laney. Any committee member discussion on the motion? With no further discussion, we will call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Those opposed? Any abstained? With that, the motion passes 7-0. We'll now move on to agenda item 8, the call to the public. This is a time for any additional public comments. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Are there any requests for public comment?
There are no requests to speak on this item.
Thank you, Ben. We'll move on to agenda item 9, agenda development. This is the opportunity for members to identify any topics they would like to be placed on an agenda at a future meeting. Lindsay Jones will lead the discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So currently we don't have any topics planned for future meetings, but we are always happy to take any suggestions from the committee. So I'll open it up for the committee if there's anything you'd like to suggest for a future agenda topic. Otherwise, we will plan normal agenda materials.
Thank you, Lindsay. Anything from the committee?
I guess this is Ray Montoya. So
Go
I
ahead,
got
Ray.
one comment. Maybe it's an idea, maybe it's not, but any discussions or coordination or movement on Colorado River agreements, discussions, statewide and regionally, I think are helpful for the committee. So anything you're willing to share or can share in that respect, I think would be of use for us. That's just my opinion.
Definitely appreciate that suggestion, Ray. We'll note it down and we'll plan something for a future meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. Anyone else? Hearing none, we'll move to agenda item 10, the next meeting. The next Federal Programs Committee meeting is currently scheduled for Tuesday, August 11th, 2026 at 1 p.m. in Phoenix. Lindsay Jones will lead the discussion.
And really nothing else to add to that other than, yep, we will continue to have our regularly scheduled meetings. So continuing on with the second Tuesday of every other month. As always, just let us know if that is an issue for your agenda, for your schedules. But if not, we will be seeing you all in the next fiscal year. So.
Thank you, Lindsay. Agenda item 11 is the adjournment. If there's nothing else, I will adjourn this meeting of the WIFA Federal Programs Committee. The time is now 2 p.m. We are now adjourned.
Thank you.